Welcome to Learn English with Podcast. Today, our amazing hosts, Luca and Maria, are here to take you through another exciting episode. Luca, Maria, over to you.
Welcome everyone to another deep dive.
Great to be diving in again.
Today, we are jumping into something that honestly gets right to the core of how we improve, how we actually grow.
Yeah, whether that's picking up a completely new skill or maybe just trying to get better at something you already do, or even, personal growth.
Exactly. And there's this constant tension, isn't there? This pull towards getting results fast, the quick fix, the shortcut.
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere. Promises of instant success. It's very tempting because, let's face it, the real process can feel, slow sometimes. Hard, even.
It really can. And that temptation, that desire for speed, is actually a big reason why people sometimes get frustrated, maybe even give up altogether.
Right. They try the shortcut, it doesn't stick, and they think, I guess I'm just not good at this.
When really the issue wasn't their capability, is maybe the path they chose. They weren't engaging with the actual way lasting change happens.
So our mission today in this deep dive is to really unpack that. We want to explore the ideas presented to us and pull out the crucial insights. What does genuine learning, real growth actually require?
And importantly, how do we handle the bumps in the road? The mistakes, the setbacks, the times it feels like you're going backwards, even managing our own thoughts about it all.
Yeah, that inner voice can be tricky.
Definitely. And look, this whole exploration, everything we put together here, it's really for you, the listener. We know you're investing your time with us, diving into these topics.
And we genuinely appreciate that. Preparing these deep dives, digging into the information, pulling out what matters. It takes a significant amount of effort. We love doing it, but it is a lot of work.
It really is. So if you find value in this conversation, if something clicks for you or helps you on your own path, showing your support makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Hitting like, sharing it with someone who might benefit, or subscribing to the channel, those actions directly help us keep putting in the work to create these explorations for you.
Your engagement really does fuel this whole thing. It allows us to keep digging deep like this. So thank you in advance if you choose to do that. Okay, let's get started.
Let's do it. Where should we begin? The illusion of speed.
Yes, let's tackle that head on. The illusion of speed, why chasing shortcuts, often leaves us feeling empty-handed in the long run.
It really is an illusion, isn't it? That feeling when something gets tough. Maybe you're trying to learn a new language or figure out some code or even master a recipe. And that little voice pops up. Isn't there a hack? A faster way? And of course, you go online.
And the internet delivers. Learn English in 7 days. Master Python overnight. Get fit in 5 minutes a day.
Exactly. It promises to bypass the effort, the struggle, and in our world, which values speed so much, that's incredibly appealing.
But what comes through loud and clear from the thinking we've examined is that while you might get a fleeting result,
like maybe memorizing a few phrases for a trip.
Right. Or finishing one online tutorial. But the real stuff, the kind of learning that actually becomes part of you that you can rely on, that just doesn't happen instantly.
No, it requires a process. And that process, according to everything we've looked at, isn't just recommended, it's essential.
And it involves things people often try to avoid.
Yeah.
Time, consistent effort, making mistakes, lots of them probably.
And actually growing through those mistakes, not despite them, and making the conscious choice not to take the easy-looking shortcut, that's presented as a really powerful move for any learner.
There's a great contrast often used to illustrate this. Imagine two people learning English vocabulary.
Okay.
Person A decides they're going to memorize 100 words today. Sit down, maybe make a list, read it over and over, try to just hammer it into their brain.
Pure rote memorization. Force it in.
Exactly. Now, person B takes a different approach. They aim for, say, 10 words a day, but they really engage with them.
What does that look like?
Well, they look up the meaning, sure, but also how it's used. They find example sentences. Maybe they try writing their own sentences. They might make flashcards and review them spaced out over the week. They actively use the words.
Okay, so a much deeper interaction.
Right. So fast forward a week. Who do you think actually knows the words better? Not just for a quiz tomorrow, but who can actually understand and use them in a real conversation next month?
It's got to be person B, right? The one who went slower but deeper.
Unquestionably. And it's not just about recall. It's about the quality of understanding, the ability to access and use that knowledge flexibly.
Yeah, the thinking behind this is that when you actively wrestle with information, when you connect it to what you already know, when you retrieve it multiple times, like person B reviewing, you're building much stronger connections in your brain.
Those neural pathways become more robust, more reliable. Person A, who crammed, they might remember a lot the next day, sure, but a week later, probably a huge drop-off.
Whereas person B, who learned maybe 70 words total but learned them deeply, they'll likely retain a much higher percentage, and they can actually use them. That's the crucial difference, temporary performance versus lasting ability.
So those shortcuts, like cramming, they give you a temporary boost. Maybe you pass the test, maybe you sound okay for a moment.
Right, you might pull out a memorized phrase perfectly.
But it's brittle knowledge, isn't it? It doesn't hold up under pressure. In a real situation, a dynamic conversation where you need to think on your feet, adapt, understand unexpected things.
That lack of a solid foundation becomes really obvious. The learning collapses. It's like building a house of cards versus building with bricks.
Why is our brain like this, though? Why does it seem to need this slower, more effortful process?
Well, learning isn't just like saving a file to a computer. It's more like physically changing the structure of the brain, building and reinforcing connections between neurons. And that happens most effectively through things like repetition, yes, but also active engagement, trial and error. And even emotion plays a part. When you struggle to remember something, or when you make a mistake and then figure out the right way.
That struggle itself is important.
It seems to be. That effort signals to your brain, hey, this is important, let's make this connection stronger. It's like forging a path. The first time is hard work, but each time you travel it, it gets easier. Shortcuts try to teleport you there, but you don't build the path.
Which also explains why real learning often feels, well, uncomfortable. That feeling of frustration when you're stuck.
That's not necessarily a sign you're failing. It can actually be a sign your brain is working hard, doing that heavy lifting needed to forge those strong connections. Effective learning is often effortful. Shortcuts feel easy because they skip that essential work.
So trying to gain a skill without going through that process, it's like the analogy used in some of the discussions we reviewed.
Yeah.
Building a house without a proper foundation.
Exactly. It might look okay from the outside, temporarily, but when life tests it, a real conversation, a complex project, using the skill under pressure, it just doesn't hold up. That valuable experience of the struggle of the process is what creates the solid foundation.
So what are some common shortcuts people take that lead to this kind of shallow learning? Things we might even do without realizing it.
Oh, there are loads. Watching tutorial videos on double speed just to get through them faster.
Guilty. Sometimes.
We've all probably done it. Or always relying on templates instead of trying to construct your own sentences, arguments, or designs from scratch.
Memorizing answers for a test or interview questions instead of understanding the underlying principles so you can answer anything.
Precisely. These things save time up front, absolutely, but they cheat you out of the practice, the mental effort that actually builds the skill. You learn the surface, but not the depth you need for true fluency, real understanding, or genuine confidence.
It really is like trying to harvest crops you never planted or tended.
You can't bypass the cultivation. Real skill, real understanding, they have to be grown layer by layer through the work itself. There's no app for that, unfortunately.
Okay, so if shortcuts are ultimately a trap because they skip the essential process and lead to fragile learning, what's the part of the process that people fear most, but which is actually crucial?
That brings us squarely to mistakes. And this is where the perspective shifts quite dramatically. The consistent message is, mistakes are not failures. They are absolutely essential. They're stepping stones.
That's a huge mental shift for a lot of us, isn't it? We're conditioned from school, sometimes from home, that mistakes are bad. Red marks on a page, proof you didn't study hard enough or aren't smart enough.
And that fear is exactly what pushes people towards those ineffective shortcuts. They want to avoid the discomfort, the perceived shame of making an error.
But the information we're exploring flips that completely on its head. It says mistakes aren't just unavoidable, they're necessary. They're how we learn effectively. Without them, deep learning is much, much harder, maybe even impossible.
Think about the analogy of a baby learning to walk. It's used often because it's so perfect.
Right, they don't just stand up and stroll across the room.
No way. They pull themselves up, they wobble, they take a hesitant step, they fall over and over and over. But do we look at that baby and think, wow, you're terrible at walking, just give up?
Of course not. We cheer. We encourage them. We celebrate the tiniest bit of progress. We instinctively understand that the falling is the learning process. It's how they figure out balance, strength, coordination.
And yet, when we're adults learning something new, a language, an instrument, a technical skill, we make a mistake, and bam, Instant self-criticism. I'm so stupid, I'll never get this. We apply this incredibly harsh standard.
But the underlying principle is identical, isn't it? When you make an error in learning, your brain is actively engaged. One fascinating point was that making a mistake and then correcting it actually strengthens the memory for the correct information more than getting it right the first time.
How does that work? Why is correcting a mistake so potent?
It seems to involve something called prediction error. Your brain expects one thing, e.g. your incorrect answer, but gets another, the correct information or feedback. This mismatch triggers attention. Your brain flags it. Whoa, pay attention here, something was wrong.
Ah, okay, so it jolts the system a bit.
Exactly. And there's often a small emotional tag too. Maybe slight surprise, frustration, or curiosity. That emotion further emphasizes to the brain, this is important, remember this correction. It forces deeper processing than just passively receiving the right answer.
Like if you keep mixing up two similar words, say affect and effect, the moment you use the wrong one in an important email and someone points it out.
Oh yeah, you probably won't make that specific mistake again. The correction, maybe combined with a little embarrassment, burns the distinction into your memory much more effectively.
Right. That effortful processing, that correction loop, builds stronger, more reliable neural pathways.
And dealing with mistakes also builds something crucial. Resilience, mental toughness.
Absolutely. Every time you make a mistake, feel that little sting of awkwardness or frustration and consciously choose to keep going instead of retreating. You're strengthening that resilience muscle.
Like, say you're practicing speaking a new language and you totally butcher a sentence and maybe someone even smirks.
Yeah, that can feel rough.
But if you can take a breath, maybe laugh it off yourself, correct it if you can, and just continue the conversation, it's huge. Each time you do that, mistakes lose a little bit of their power over you. You learn they're not fatal. You get better at distancing yourself off.
And that self-compassion, learning to laugh at your own errors, is such a key part of becoming a confident learner. It frees you up to take more risks.
Mistakes also serve a really practical function. They're like diagnostic tools.
Road signs, yeah.
Yeah.
They show you exactly where you need to focus your attention. If you never made mistakes, how would you know your weak spots?
Right. If you keep getting confused about when to use ser versus estar in Spanish, your mistakes are basically highlighting, hey, go review this specific grammar point.
It's incredibly specific feedback, way more useful than just a vague feeling of, I'm bad at Spanish. Mistakes give you a clear map for improvement.
Which leads us right into why perfectionism is such a barrier.
Because perfectionism is essentially the fear of making mistakes taken to an extreme. People who identify as perfectionists often avoid situations where they might fail or look incompetent.
Especially in the beginning stages of learning something new.
Exactly. In language learning, you see it all the time. People who are terrified of saying something wrong, so they just don't speak. They might study grammar for years, but they avoid the very practice speaking that would lead to fluency, precisely because practice involves making mistakes.
So the desire for perfection ironically blocks progress.
Completely. Letting go of that need to be perfect, especially early on, is absolutely critical. You have to give yourself permission to be a beginner, permission to be messy, because that's just how learning works. It's trial and error. Mostly error at first.
Interestingly, the exploration also touched on how mistakes can sometimes even spark creativity.
Yeah, it's that idea of happy accidents. Sometimes hitting a dead end, trying to express something one way, forces your brain to scramble and find a completely different, maybe more interesting or original way to say it. Constraints and failures can push you off the predictable path.
And there's a human element too. Making mistakes makes you more relatable.
So much more. Think about who you connect with more easily. Someone who seems flawless and untouchable, or someone who's clearly trying, maybe struggling a bit, but putting themselves out there.
The second one, definitely.
Showing your imperfections, your effort, your vulnerability, that's human. It shows courage. It actually gives other people permission to be imperfect too. It can be inspiring to watch someone learn and stumble and keep going.
And taking the time to reflect on your mistakes seems key for self-awareness.
It shifts the focus from I failed to, okay, what happened there? Why didn't that work? What can I try differently next time? What did I learn from that attempt? It makes you an active investigator in your own learning process, not just a passive recipient of success or failure.
So the big takeaway here, especially for anyone learning anything practical like a language or a skill, seems crystal clear.
Get out there and make mistakes. Speak more, do more, try more, and fear less. Mistakes are not just likely, they are guaranteed. And they're not the problem, they are the path.
Every attempt, even the flawed ones, is building something.
Exactly. And remember, everyone makes them. Native speakers make slips of the tongue constantly. It's normal. It's human.
Your mistakes aren't proof you're incapable. They're proof you're trying. They're proof you're learning. They are signs of engagement.
Embrace them as part of the journey. Which leads us nicely into the next piece. What happens after the attempts, after the mistakes? What keeps you going?
The dynamic duo. Patience and consistency.
The unsung heroes of real achievement. We look at successful people and often attribute it to, innate talent or maybe luck, good timing.
Right. But digging into it, the foundation seems almost always to be these two qualities, patience and consistency.
They're the polar opposite of the quick fix mindset we started with. It's about understanding that real deep change doesn't happen in huge bursts. It happens through the steady accumulation of small, regular actions over time.
The gym analogy works so well here. You don't go to the gym for one marathon 8-hour session and expect to be ripped the next day.
Or even go for 8 hours once a month. It doesn't work. What works is going consistently. Maybe it's just 30 minutes, but you do it several times a week, every week.
And the same applies to learning. Trying to cram study into one massive weekend session is far less effective than doing, say, 20 or 30 minutes every day.
That regularity, that consistency is way more powerful than infrequent intensity. Small daily steps compound dramatically over time. The brain learns better with distributed practice.
Let's talk about patience first. It's hard. It's that ability to keep going calmly, even when progress feels incredibly slow or non-existent.
And learning will test your patience. You'll hit plateaus where it feels like you're stuck. You'll forget things you were sure you knew yesterday. You'll compare yourself to others who seem faster. It's frustrating.
It really is. The analogy often used is planting a seed.
Right. You plant it, you water it, you give it sun. But for ages, nothing seems to happen above ground. Yeah. All the vital work is happening invisibly underground as the roots establish themselves.
If you get impatient after a week and dig it up to see what's going on, you kill it.
Exactly. Patience is trusting that the roots of your learning are growing, even when you can't see the sprout yet. It's continuing to water, continuing the practice, believing that the connections are forming in your brain, even if the results aren't obvious right now. Giving up just before the breakthrough because you lack patience is such a common pitfall.
And consistency is the engine that drives that process. It's about showing up regularly, doing the work, even when you don't feel like it.
Especially when you don't feel like it. Motivation is fickle. It comes and goes. Some days you'll be eager to learn. Other days it'll feel like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
Consistency is building the habit so that it transcends motivation. It becomes less of a daily decision, should I study today, and more of an automatic action. Okay, it's Tuesday morning, time for my 15 minutes of practice.
Like brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
You just do it.
Right. And that consistency does more than just build the skill. It shapes your identity. You start to see yourself as someone who learns consistently, someone who practices regularly.
That identity then reinforces the action. It's a positive cycle.
Exactly. The action builds the identity. The identity fuels the action.
But that idea, invisible progress, that's a tough one for learners. We want to see results.
We do. And we tend to focus on how far we still have to go. I still make so many mistakes. I still don't sound like a native speaker. We compare ourselves to the endpoint.
Instead of looking back at how far we've come.
Right. But think about babies learning language again. There are months, even years, of listening, absorbing, processing internally before they speak fluently. So much crucial development is happening beneath the surface. Invisible to us, maybe even invisible to them.
So the focus shouldn't be on achieving perfection immediately.
Definitely not. Perfectionism is the enemy of consistency. The goal is progress, however small. Did you learn one new thing today? Did you practice for 10 minutes when you planned to? Did you understand a little bit more than yesterday? That's success. Focus on the process, not the distant, perfect outcome.
And the compound effect mathematically proves why this works.
It's the magic of accumulation. Small, consistent efforts add up to massive results. Learning just, say, 5 new words a day doesn't sound like much, but that's over 1,800 words in a year.
Wow.
Or listening to something in your target language for just 15 minutes daily. That's over 90 hours of input in a year. These seemingly tiny daily investments build into something really significant.
You don't need huge chunks of time. You just need consistent, small chunks.
Which brings us to a really practical strategy, the one thing approach.
Okay, tell me about that. Sounds manageable.
The idea is to simplify your daily learning commitment to just one small, specific, achievable task. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by a long list, you just commit to doing that one thing each day.
Like Monday, review 5 vocabulary flashcards. Tuesday, listen to one song actively. Wednesday, write 2 sentences using a new grammar point.
Exactly. Keep it small, keep it doable. This lowers the barrier to getting started, makes it less intimidating, and helps prevent burnout. Completing that one small thing gives you a win for the day and builds momentum.
And linking it to an existing habit makes it easier to stick to.
Yeah, habit stacking. Do your one thing right after you brush your teeth, or during your commute, or before you read at night. Tie it to something you already do automatically.
Tracking your consistency can also be really motivating.
Hugely. Even just putting a check mark on a calendar each day you do your one thing. Seeing that chain of check marks grow is powerful visual proof that you're showing up. It reinforces your commitment. And definitely celebrate those check marks. Acknowledge your consistency.
But what about the bad days? The days you miss?
They will happen. Life gets in the way. You get sick, you have an emergency, you're just exhausted. Missing a day or even a few days doesn't break your consistency streak in the grand scheme of things.
It's not about being perfect.
Not at all. It's about being persistent. The key isn't never falling off, it's always getting back on. Forgive yourself for the lapse, be kind, and just pick it up again tomorrow or whenever you can. That's resilience. That's consistency in action.
And maybe keeping that future vision in mind helps. Visualizing yourself having achieved the skill.
That can be a powerful motivator, remembering why you're putting in this consistent, patient effort. That future, more capable version of you is being built by the small steps you take today.
So the core message running through all this is, trust the process.
Yes, your effort, even when it feels small or slow, is not wasted. It's accumulating. It's building something real. In the long run, speed matters less than simply not stopping. Patience and consistency are your superpowers.
Okay, so you're on this path, you're being patient, you're being consistent, you're even embracing mistakes. Inevitably, you're going to get input from others, which brings us to feedback.
Feedback. Such a crucial element, but one that can feel tricky.
Definitely tricky. Most of us have that immediate, almost visceral reaction to being corrected, right? A little jolt of embarrassment, maybe defensiveness. Sometimes you just want the ground to swallow you up.
It's a very common reaction, and it stems often from feedback feeling like a personal judgment. Like it's not just about the thing you did wrong, but about you being wrong or not smart enough or not good enough. It taps into our ego, our desire to be seen as competent.
But the absolutely vital distinction that this exploration hammers home is, feedback is about your performance, not your person. It's about a specific action, a specific output, not about your inherent worth or capability.
Separating those two things is key. Let's take that simple language example again. You say, he go to school, and someone corrects you. Actually, it's he goes.
Okay.
In that instant, you have a choice in your internal response. Path 1. Oh God, I'm so stupid. I always mess this up. I should just stop talking. Path 2. Okay, right. Third person singular nouns. Got it. Thanks.
And which path leads to actually getting better at English?
Path 2, undeniably. The faster you can process corrections as helpful data rather than personal attacks, the faster you learn. One path stabs you, the other accelerates you.
The mirror analogy here is really powerful.
It is. If you glance in a mirror and see you have spinach in your teeth,
You don't get mad at the mirror.
exactly. You're grateful the mirror showed you something you couldn't see yourself so you can fix it. Feedback is that mirror for your learning. It points out the spinach, the errors or areas for improvement you might be blind to. Without it, you might keep making the same mistake indefinitely.
But let's be honest, not all feedback is helpful, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's just mean or vague.
That's a crucial point. You absolutely need to filter. Helpful feedback is usually specific, constructive, maybe points out the error in the correction, and ideally is delivered with encouragement. Hey, great effort speaking. Just a quick tip, it's goes here, not go.
Versus unhelpful feedback, which might be just, that sounded terrible, or overly critical without guidance.
Right. The advice is generally, learn to recognize the difference. Graciously accept helpful, constructive feedback. Develop a thicker skin or simply ignore vague negativity or toxic comments. Don't let unhelpful criticism derail you.
So a lot of this comes down to shifting your internal mindset about receiving feedback.
Moving towards that growth mindset again, training your inner voice. Instead of thinking they're judging me, try thinking they're trying to help me improve. Instead of feeling shame, try framing it as, okay, another piece of the puzzle learn. Instead of I'm failing, think mistakes are how I learn. Even experts made mistakes on their way here.
There was that great story about Alex learning Spanish that illustrated this perfectly.
Yes. He was making tons of mistakes, as beginners do. But his reaction to correction was consistently positive. Whether it was a teacher or just someone in his shop, if they corrected his Spanish, he'd genuinely smile and say something like, "Oh, thank you so much, I appreciate that."
He didn't get defensive at all.
No, he saw it purely as helpful information. He apparently even kept a little notebook to jot down corrections. He treated feedback like free lessons.
And because he welcomed it and used it, his progress was incredibly fast. He saw corrections as stepping stones, not roadblocks.
And you can actually invite this kind of helpful feedback. You can say things like, "I'm really working on my English. Please feel free to correct me if you notice mistakes," or "What's one thing I could focus on to improve?"
That takes courage, but it signals you're serious about learning.
It does.
Yeah.
And it helps create a supportive learning environment. So building that healthier relationship with feedback involves a few steps. Maybe pausing and breathing before reacting emotionally. Making a conscious effort to thank the person, taking notes on the correction if you can, actively trying to apply the correction later, and constantly reminding yourself of your bigger goal fluency, mastery, and seeing feedback as a tool to get you there faster.
Ultimately, being open to feedback just makes you learn faster and become stronger.
Look at anyone at the top of their field. Athletes, musicians, writers, scientists, they thrive on feedback. They have coaches, mentors, editors, peer reviewers. They see constructive criticism as essential for growth, not as an insult.
So feedback. It's a powerful gift for your growth. Don't fear it, welcome it, use it. Thanking someone for it acknowledges their contribution to your journey.
Reframing it changes everything.
Okay, from that external input, let's turn inward to that constant chatter inside our own heads, our inner dialogue, our self-talk.
This is huge. That running commentary in your mind, it profoundly shapes your motivation, your confidence, how you handle challenges, how you process mistakes and feedback. Basically, it influences everything about your growth journey.
If that voice is constantly critical, you're not smart enough, you'll never get this, why bother trying?
Yeah.
What happens?
It crushes your spirit, right? It leads to anxiety, procrastination, giving up easily. It's the soundtrack of a fixed mindset, keeping you stuck.
Whereas a more positive, encouraging inner voice, the voice of a growth mindset.
Sounds very different. It might say, "Okay, that was tough, but what can I learn?" Or, "I don't know how to do this yet, but I can figure it out." Or, "Mistakes are proof I'm trying." That kind of self-talk fuels persistence and resilience.
The first step is just noticing, isn't it? Becoming aware of what your internal default setting actually sounds like.
Because it's often so automatic, running on autopilot. We don't even realize how harsh or limiting it might be.
How can you become more aware?
Simple techniques can help. Like when you feel frustrated or stuck, consciously pause and ask yourself, what exactly am I telling myself right now? Maybe even write those thoughts down for a few days to see the patterns. Another powerful technique is asking, would I talk to a friend this way? Usually the answer is no. We're often much kinder to others than to ourselves. That realization can be a wake-up call.
Okay, so once you start noticing the negative patterns, how do you actually change the script?
It takes conscious effort, but you can actively choose different words. It's like cognitive restructuring. One incredibly powerful tool is adding the word yet.
Ah, the magic yet. I can't do this yet.
Exactly. I don't understand this becomes I don't understand this yet. It transforms a statement of permanent limitation into one of temporary state. It implies progress is possible and ongoing. It's a tiny word with massive impact.
What else?
Changing I'm not good at X to I'm learning how to get better at X. So I'm bad at grammar becomes I'm learning how grammar works and practicing using it. It shifts the focus from a fixed identity to an active process.
And reframing, this is too hard.
Maybe to this is challenging and it will take time and effort. It acknowledges the difficulty without making it sound insurmountable or like a personal failing. These subtle shifts in language, practiced consistently, really do start to rewire your thinking patterns.
What about positive affirmations? Do they fit in here?
They can be a useful tool for some people. Repeating short, positive statements about yourself and your capabilities. I am capable of learning new things. I approach challenges with persistence. I am proud of my efforts. They work by deliberately planting positive seeds to counteract the weeds of negative self-talk. Consistency is key for them to take root.
It's not about pretending negative thoughts won't happen, right? It's more about how you respond when they do.
Precisely. The goal isn't to eliminate negative thoughts entirely. That's probably impossible. It's to catch them when they arise, acknowledge them without judgment, and then consciously reframe them or replace them with a more constructive, supportive thought.
Like if the thought, I'm too slow, comes up.
You catch it, And maybe reframe it as, everyone learns at their own pace. I'm focusing on my consistent effort, not comparing my speed to others. Progress is happening. That active reframing is where the power lies.
And training that inner voice to celebrate the small wins seems really important for motivation.
Absolutely crucial. Don't wait until you reach the final goal to feel good. When you manage your 15 minutes of practice, when you understand a tricky concept, when you use a new word correctly, your inner voice should give you a little pat on the back. Nice work. See, you got that. Progress. These internal acknowledgments build confidence and make the journey more enjoyable.
And underlying all of this self-talk work is the need for self-compassion, being kind to yourself.
Yes. Treat yourself with the same patience, understanding, and encouragement you'd offer a good friend who is learning something difficult. Your inner voice should be your ally, your cheerleader, not your drill sergeant or harshest critic. It should encourage you to rest when needed, forgive mistakes, and genuinely celebrate successes.
It really comes down to recognizing you have agency over your thoughts. You're the author of your inner story.
You are. You can choose to write a story of limitation and fear, or you can choose to write one of curiosity, courage, learning, and self-belief. When that old voice whispers, "I can't," you can learn to reply firmly, "Watch me try. I am learning. I am growing."
Okay, so we've covered the internal landscape. Now, the exploration also looks outward at the power of connection, starting with something often seen as the opposite of strong, crying.
Right. It directly challenges that societal baggage around tears, the idea that crying equals weakness. It poses a simple question. If crying was so bad, why would we build this way? Why would nature give us tears?
It argues that crying isn't weakness at all. It's a sign of being human, deeply human. It's a natural release, a form of communication, even a healing process.
Tears often say what words can't quite capture, right? Intense grief, overwhelming relief, deep frustration, even profound joy. It's an overflow of emotion. It's not breaking down, it's expressing something real.
And there's science behind it too. Emotional tears actually contain stress hormones.
Yeah, the act of crying can literally flush those hormones out of your system, helping to regulate your nervous system. It's like cleaning out an emotional wound. How can something that facilitates healing be weak?
Crying is also deeply connected to vulnerability, to honesty.
When someone cries, they're being raw, they're being real, there's no pretense. And showing that vulnerability takes immense courage, especially in cultures that discourage it. It's not fragility, it's authenticity.
And it has this powerful effect on connection, doesn't it? Seeing someone cry often triggers empathy in us.
It really does. It's a primal, nonverbal signal. It often bypasses our usual social defenses and evokes a desire to comfort, to connect, to help. It sends messages like, "I'm hurting," or "I need support," or simply "be with me." It can forge bonds.
And yet we apologize for it. Oh, sorry, I don't know why I'm crying.
Isn't that strange? We feel shame for a natural, healthy, emotional release. It shows how deeply ingrained the discomfort is, especially, as the information points out, for men who often face intense pressure not to show vulnerability through tears.
But true strength, it argues, lies in being able to access and express your full emotional range. Being disconnected from your feelings isn't strength, it's suppression.
Someone who can cry, who allows themselves that release, is often more emotionally resilient in the long run. They're processing, not bottling up.
And we cry from joy, too. Overwhelming happiness, beauty, connection. Tears aren't just about sadness. They signify deep feeling.
They show we're alive, engaged, moved by our experiences. And allowing tears in relationships, both your own and others, builds trust. When someone cries with you, they're trusting you with their vulnerability. Simply being present, without judgment, honors that trust immensely.
So far from being weak, crying is presented as brave, honest, healing, and a bridge to deeper human connection.
A powerful reframe.
Which leads perfectly into the next related idea: how we support others when they are vulnerable, specifically through empathy.
Empathy, as explored here, is more than just feeling sorry for someone. It's actively trying to understand their experience from their perspective, stepping into their shoes, and being genuinely present with their feelings.
There's that scenario used. Your friend Alex lost his job. You meet him. He's clearly distraught, maybe crying. What's the empathetic response versus the typical fixing response?
Right. The fixing response is often, "Don't worry, you'll find something better," or "cheer up," or maybe trying to solve the problem immediately. While well-intentioned, it can feel dismissive of the pain they're feeling right now.
Whereas the empathetic response validates the feeling.
Exactly. Saying something like, "Wow, Alex, this sounds incredibly painful. I'm so sorry you're going through this," or "I can see how much this hurts. I'm just here for you." It doesn't try to fix it or minimize it. It just acknowledges the reality of their pain and offers presence. That validation is incredibly healing.
And you don't need special skills to do this.
Not at all. It's about being human, listening deeply, offering quiet support, maybe asking, is there anything I can do? Or simply, do you want to talk about it? Sometimes the most empathetic thing is just sitting in silence together.
Empathy requires patience, doesn't it? Not rushing the person through their feelings.
And respecting their boundaries, letting them lead. Maybe they don't want to talk right now, and that's okay. Just knowing you're there, willing to listen when they're ready, is huge.
Active listening is key. Paying attention not just to words, but tone, body language, what's underneath the words.
Trying to really hear their emotional experience.
And the absolute cornerstone of empathy. No judgment.
This is critical. Thoughts like, why is he so upset about this? Or judging their reaction kills empathy instantly. You have to accept that their feelings are valid for them, regardless of whether you would feel the same way. Empathy requires acceptance of their reality.
Supporting people this way also helps normalize emotional expression for everyone.
It creates safer spaces for authenticity.
When I think back on times I've been upset, it was rarely advice I needed. It was just knowing someone was there, seeing my pain, and not turning away.
That presence is powerful. Simple phrases like, I'm here, it's okay to feel this way, take all the time you need. They communicate deep care and acceptance. And maybe checking in later shows your support is ongoing. Empathy is quiet, steady strength.
So, vulnerability allows connection, empathy strengthens it. This brings us to the final piece of the puzzle in this section, the company we keep, surrounding ourselves with positive people.
Yes, the idea that who you surround yourself with profoundly impacts your own journey. It's not just about feeling good. It affects your mindset, your confidence, your actions. There's that concept of emotional contagion.
You pick up on the moves and attitudes of people around you.
Unconsciously, yes. If you're trying to grow, learn, push your boundaries, being surrounded by cynicism, negativity, or people who constantly doubt you, it's like trying to swim against a strong current.
It drags you down. If you're learning English and your friends make fun of your accent or tell you it's pointless,
it's incredibly discouraging. Whereas positive people, the ones who believe in growth, who offer encouragement, who cheer you on, they act like a supportive current, helping you along.
how do they react differently to, say, a mistake?
A negative person might criticize or focus on the flaw. A positive person might say, hey, no worries, happens to everyone. Or, wow, look how much you're trying, keep going. They create psychological safety, making it feel okay to stumble.
They also help build resilience after setbacks.
Definitely. If you face a challenge, a negative person might say, see, I told you it was too hard. A positive person acknowledges the difficulty, but helps you focus on learning from it, finding solutions, getting back up. They believe in your ability to overcome, which bolsters your own belief.
And motivation itself is contagious.
Being around people who are excited about learning, who are working towards their own goals, is inspiring. It makes you feel like if they can do it, maybe I can too. It normalizes effort and ambition.
So how do we spot these genuinely positive people? What are the signs?
They tend to celebrate your successes, genuinely. They encourage your aspirations. They offer support, not judgment when you fail. They listen well. They generally avoid gossip and constant complaining. They respect your boundaries. They look for the good. Crucially, you usually feel better after spending time with them, more hopeful, energized, capable.
What if you realize your current circle isn't very positive?
That's tough, but you have choices. You can set boundaries with negative people, limit exposure, change conversational topics. But more proactively, you can seek out new connections. Join groups, online communities, workshops related to your interests. Be intentional about building a more supportive network.
And you can choose to be that positive influence yourself.
Absolutely. Offer encouragement, celebrate others' wins, listen empathetically. Like attracts like. When you put positivity out there, you tend to draw more of it towards you.
Choosing your circle isn't trivial. It's a key strategy for growth. The right people make the path feel possible, even enjoyable.
They really do provide essential fuel for the journey.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together as we wrap up this deep dive. We started by challenging the allure of quick fixes, establishing that real, lasting growth demands embracing the process with all its time and effort.
We then completely reframed mistakes, seeing them not as failures but as essential learning opportunities, the brain's natural way of building understanding and resilience. indispensable, really.
We underscored the quiet but immense power of patience and consistency, how showing up regularly, even in small ways, compounds into significant progress over time, trusting that invisible growth.
We looked at feedback, shifting it from a perceived threat to a valuable gift, a mirror showing us how to improve, emphasizing the need to filter it and use it constructively.
We explore the critical internal landscape of self-talk, recognizing our power to shift from a limiting inner critic to a supportive inner coach, using empowering language and self-compassion.
And finally, we embraced the power of human connection, recognizing vulnerability like crying a strength, practicing empathy to build deep bonds, and understanding the profound impact of surrounding ourselves with positive, supportive people.
It paints a picture of growth as this holistic journey, right? It requires engaging with the process, learning from stumbles, being persistent, managing our inner world, and drawing strength from connection. And these aren't just abstract ideas. They apply directly to whatever you're trying to learn or achieve.
It's a path that demands courage and commitment, definitely. But the outcome, genuine skill, deep confidence, a richer experience of life, is truly worth the effort.
So, as we leave you after this exploration, here's a final thought to ponder, something to carry forward into your own journey. If we accept that real growth happens in the discomfort of the process, through learning from mistakes, through patient consistency, through welcoming feedback, through supportive self-talk, through vulnerability and empathetic connection, then what specific comfortable habit, limiting fear, or negative thought pattern are you ready to gently challenge today, knowing that stepping into that discomfort is where your most powerful transformation awaits?
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you. We appreciate you spending your time with us. Until the next one.
It was a cold Thursday afternoon when Mia noticed her friend Josh sitting alone on the park bench, staring at the ground with tears quietly rolling down his cheeks. She hadn't seen him like this before. Usually, Josh was the loudest one in the group, always cracking jokes and cheering others up. But today, he looked like someone who had lost his spark. Mia felt nervous at first. What should she say? Should she even approach him? But then she remembered something she had recently learned. Support starts with empathy. So, instead of asking questions or offering advice, she simply sat beside him. She didn't say anything right away. She just let him cry. After a few minutes, she gently placed a warm cup of coffee next to him and whispered, "I'm here, Josh. No pressure to talk. Just know you're not alone." Josh didn't speak for a while, but Mia's quiet presence was enough. Eventually, he began to open up. He had just lost his job and felt like a failure. He was ashamed to cry, especially in public. Mia didn't interrupt or tell him to cheer up. She listened, really listened, and when he finished, she said, "It's okay to feel like this. You don't have to carry it all alone." That moment changed everything. Josh didn't just feel better. He felt understood. In the days that followed, Mia kept checking in on him, reminding him that someone cared. That's what empathy looks like. Not fixing, not judging, just being there. And sometimes that's all a person truly needs.
Thank you for watching. Your journey to better English and unstoppable confidence starts here. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep growing together. See you in the next video, champion.